Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today's event. We are so excited, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Women in AI talk today with the topic of emerging research and applications of AI, which is presented by Women in AI Calgary team. So my name is Prisa, and I'm part of the Women in AI Calgary team. And I'm a principal data scientist at ATB Financial, and I'm super excited to moderate today's event with Neha. Before getting into it, I would like to take a moment and thank our sponsor, ATB Financial, and specifically data and AI team at ATB. So ATB has been big support for women in AI for a long time, and ATB's generous support has made this event possible, and we really appreciate their support and their commitment to support women in this field. Thank you, ATB. So now I would like you to welcome Yukun to give you a quick introduction, our city lead, Calgary city lead.
Hi, everyone. It's with great pleasure that I welcome you all to this Women AI event. This is a virtual event, so I know many of you are from different cities. It's so good to see so many faces from different walks of lives representing different organizations and supporting the cause of gender diversity in the field of AI. Today, we have 3 female speakers, all from Calgary. I really want to use this event to showcase our Calgary talents and also celebrate our women talents in this field. Your presence here today reflects a strong commitment to promoting equality and inclusive in the world of technology. So regardless of gender, we welcome you and we thank you for advocating for women in this field. And I hope you like this event and also have a lot of discussion in the chat. Please feel free to use the chat if you have questions or anything you want to discuss. Okay, I'll pass it back to our team and wait on the Women in AI Calgary to have a brief introduction of each of us. Chelsea, you can go ahead. Our event lead, Emma, is spending a precious time in Maui right now, so she's not here. But the rest of our group are taking care of it as she's enjoying her holiday. Chelsea, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think Maui is the only thing that would keep me from being here today too. So I definitely want to give the shout out to Emma for all the work that she's done behind the scenes here. And happy that she's getting the break that she deserves. My name's Chelsea Squires. I am currently the Senior Manager of Data Science at ATB Financial, and I would like to call out that you do not need to necessarily be working at ATB to be a member of Women in AI Calgary, but ATB has a really great sense of values and support for women in AI and data science, which I think is why we tend to gravitate towards one another, and just want to highlight again how appreciative we are of the support that they've given us. I am the events lead for the City of Calgary chapter. Please feel free to follow me on LinkedIn or to reach out, because I'll always be sharing the events that we'll be coming up with in the year. I'll throw it over to Seppi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Seppi, and I'm in Chelsea team. I'm volunteering Women in AI, and I work with her. And also, I'm a master's student in University of Calgary. I study software engineering, and Dr. Karimipour is she's my supervisor, and that's for me.
Neha, I think you can go next.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. My name is Neha, and I am working as a senior data engineer with Neo Financial. I have been part of the Calgary team, the Women AI team, for some time, and it has been a great journey. We have, I've gotten to meet like a lot of amazing talent that is present here. Yeah, so that's about me. So let's get started. We have an esteemed lineup of speakers today who will shed light on the latest developments in these fields. We encourage you all to ask questions throughout the presentation and participate in the discussion afterward. Our first speaker, Dr. Hadis Karimipour from University of Calgary, will talk about cybersecurity in the era of ChatGPT. Dr. Karimipour will shed light on the latest cybersecurity threats and how they can be addressed with the use of ChatGPT. Her talk will be insightful for anyone interested in the field of cybersecurity and AI. Dr. Hadis Karimipour is the Canada Research Chair Tier 2 in Secure and Resilient Cyber Physical Systems, Director of the Smart Cyber Physical Lab, and an Associate Professor in the Department of Electrical and Software Engineering at University of Calgary. Dr. Karimipour is among the pioneers of using artificial intelligence, machine and deep learning for security analysis of critical infrastructure. She has published 2 books, 24 book chapters, and more than 80 journal and conference articles in top IEEE journals and conferences. Dr. Karimipour received many awards, including Canada's Top 20 Women in Cybersecurity by IT World Canada, APEGA Early Accomplishment Award, and Most Inspiring Women in Cyber Award by IT Security Guru. Her research focuses on the application of AI in cybersecurity of critical infrastructures. So without further ado, let's begin with our first talk. Over to you, Dr. Hadis Karimipour.
Thank you very much for your introduction. I'm going to share my screen. So you should be able to see my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, let's me. I shared the wrong one. I want to make sure that I'm looking at the proper camera. Now we should be all right. So can you see the right screen, the presentation first page?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry if I'm looking in the basically wrong direction, not the camera. I'm just looking around in my screen. I have 2 big screens here. Again, thank you very much for the introduction. So I'm not going to introduce myself again. I'm going to today talk about cybersecurity in the era of ChatGPT, and I would like to thank you all for participating in the event and the organization team for organizing such a great event. I'm going to start with some overview of the ChatGPT. We know that ChatGPT is an AI-based chatbot that can engage in human-like conversation with users and provide quick and accurate response to basically queries. And everyone who gives ChatGPT a spin is kind of impressed by the quality of the answer. Since it was launched in November, I think, it inspired many people, and it almost engaged 100 million users within the first 2 months, which is very impressive. We all know that AI revolution has been in progress for many years, but what's new about basically this technology is the public appearance of the large-scale generative pre-trained transformer, or GPT, which is basically the technology behind the ChatGPT. And it works by processing large amount of natural language data and uses the unsupervised learning to generate response. It's a definitely awesome technology, but not so frequently. The answer, infrequently, I mean, the answer are wrong, inconsistent, or inaccurate. So it comes with its own limitation and drawback. But the bot works well enough that people may think that it's still telling the truth, and they can trust in their response that they are basically collecting from ChatGPT. In terms of the capability of the chatbot, it can carry out conversation in natural language, response to users in the real time. It can help in answering questions, providing information, completing tasks such as booking a restaurant reservation and things like this. And one good thing about it is that it can understand the context in some sense, not completely, and remember previous conversation, and that will allow it to provide some sort of personalized response, which is very interesting for basically different people. If I wanted to talk about application, I think almost everywhere we can find somehow an application for ChatGPT. In customer service, it can provide quick and efficient support to customer. In education, it can assist a student in homework, providing explanation of the concepts, or providing them with customized and personalized learning experience. It can also assist teachers in automating the routine tasks like grading and things like that. And also in healthcare, it can provide medical advice, answer questions, help the medical staff in scheduling different type of basically tasks and things like this. Obviously, we cannot totally rely on this technology for all these tasks, but people in different organizations used it, and it's already been proved that there is huge potential to use the technology and embed it maybe in some of the existing technology for these purposes. But definitely we have to be careful about that. In terms of limitation, obviously every good technology comes with its own limitation, and ChatGPT is not an exception. Maybe one of the important things is that it lacks common sense, and that can lead to misunderstanding or providing some sort of nonsense response in some situation. Also, because it's trained on a large concept of text data, although it's basically trained in a large concept of the data, still it lacks knowledge, and basically cut off the training for the ChatGPT was in 2021, if I'm not wrong. And if you ask any question which is related to after that, you will get a response that I don't know anything about that. And it's because of the nature of the bot, that it's trained on huge amount of data, which is basically all over internet, and we all know that biasness unfortunately exists in our life. The bot itself can provide biased response to basically some question and some in some of the responses, which is definitely something that should be addressed. And although that it might understand lots of context very well, but if you ask it to do a very complex or complicated task or concept, it might not be able to understand it, and it might just provide you some response which doesn't make sense. The other issue would be the lack of emotional intelligence, because people in different basically stage of their life, and people in different basically the different career might use ChatGPT. You have to be careful not to use it for those tasks which involve with emotional intelligence, like if you're working with someone who needs advice. If you're a psychologist, for example, it's not recommended to use things like ChatGPT because it doesn't have the emotional intelligence. And if anything related to human emotion involved in the chat, it might not be able to reflect on that and understand that to provide proper response. And obviously, it has a limited creativity. It's not, what it does is that it will use the huge amount of information which is provided to it, and it's kind of try to predict the next word in the conversation, or try to extract pattern and relate your question to the existing pattern in the huge data set that it's working with. But it lacks creativity. It cannot just develop something new for you. Let's say if you wanted to ask it to do something a creative engineer would do for you to develop something new, it's not able to do that. But one of the major limitations that I'm going to more focus on it would be the vulnerability to cyber attack. There are different basically ways that ChatGPT can be used for malicious purposes, and I'm going to talk about it more. As with any technology that involves processing and storing data, there are potential cybersecurity risks associated with ChatGPT. And as I said, there are different ways that the technology can be used or can be hacked for different purposes. Today, I'm going to only mention maybe some of the major, cases that ChatGPT can be misused, but obviously we can find other examples if you look for it. So one of the major problems with ChatGPT is the issue with the data breaches. You might have heard that a couple of weeks ago, Samsung suffered a data breach because workers in the Samsung, they were using the chatbot for some writing edit and fixing some problem with their source code. But then when they were using the chatbot, they mistakenly shared some sensitive information about their hardware, about the code itself, and some of the client information. And that basically resulted in data breaches. Aside from that, ChatGPT has already suffered at least one breach that is known. It was during the week of March 20th, if I'm not right, that OpenAI basically shut down the system to fix the flaw that led to the exposure of the user's information. So these examples and many examples that you can find with a simple search are enough to show that if ChatGPT is not properly secured, it may be vulnerable to cyber attacks such as hacking, which could result in sensitive users' data being exposed or stolen. And another risk that might result in data breach is that because these large language models might be available on the dark web, which is basically the website that cyber criminal will use, they might be able to train these models with malicious type of data for malicious purposes, which can result in data breach again. The other things is that generation of the malware will become very easy with the ChatGPT because beside text, ChatGPT can also produce code in different programming language, and it expands the capacity of malicious actors with little or no knowledge of IT development to transform basically natural language into malware. And many believes that ChatGPT is an ally for a script kiddie. A script kiddie is the term that we basically use to define a hacker without a great technical skills. Although there are definitely filter tools in ChatGPT which tries to avoid misuse for generation of malware or other malicious purposes, but there are many examples online that shows that if we use and tweak the bot, we can get basically something workable, like as a malicious code out of it. And we know that if less skill is required for developing a malicious code, that means more people can do it. And that makes the detection of these basically malwares, which are malicious software for malicious purposes, very more difficult. And that means we might suffer more cyber attacks. And the other thing is that because it comes with the strong analytics, it can offers, if you offer it a source code, it can basically somehow teach you what each line of the code would do. And again, that will help a script kiddie to develop malware a lot easier. Here I have just two examples for you to show you that you can get a workable code out of ChatGPT. In the left side, I have I don't know if it's clear enough to read it. I just asked a simple question from the ChatGPT, and you see that if you directly ask it to provide you a malicious code, it will send you some like disclaimer that this is inappropriate or it's not safe to do something like that and blah blah. But if you tweak it wrong, if you know how to break down your task into several different pieces, you can basically force the bot to give you different piece of code, and if you have some level of knowledge, you would be able to merge all of them and get something out of it that is working. But I have to admit that it's getting a lot better. I remember the first couple of days that it was launched, it was a lot easier to force it to give you malicious code or malicious emails. But after a few days, it seems that they got the feedback and things like that, and they keep trying to improve it. But still, you can find a way to take advantage of it in a wrong way. Another security issues somehow relevant to cybersecurity issue would be the generation of misinformation with the ChatGPT. As a language model, ChatGPT has the ability to generate text that may be misleading or inaccurate, and that could potentially be used for spreading misinformation or disinformation, which can be used for different purposes, including manipulating people to sharing their password or sharing their personal information or the personal information of their company, and then those information can be used for malicious purposes. It also can be used for large-scale deepfake campaign, which basically, and it does it with impersonating specific people's style and speech that can be used to generate audio and video out of it. And then those audio and video can be used to basically mislead the people to maybe believe on something, do something that might be dangerous or unsafe, and things like that. And again, we have the issue that if someone gets access to the basically baseline and underlying background of the ChatGPT and feed the wrong information to the bot, again, it can use it for malicious purposes by generating different type of misinformation. Social engineering, helping or facilitating social engineering, let's say, is another way that ChatGPT can be used by cybercriminal, I would say. Social engineering is the attempt to trick users in divulging sensitive information or data. Somehow it has some sort of overlap with the way that we can use misinformation, but it's a technique that cybercriminal would use, and it's, the backbone of it all relies on the psychology relationship that you can build with other, how you can basically attract their trust, how you can build trust, and then people will trust on you to share information. How it can result in security basically breaches, it's a lot easier for cybercriminal to hack people in an organization rather than hacking their IT network. So there are lots of different ways that they can force the people or manipulate the people to share sensitive data, and those sensitive data can be used as a tool for them to open some doors and then get access to the larger organization for malicious purposes. So that's the way social engineering, why social engineering is important, and the way that ChatGPT can help in it. Another way is maybe one of the important one, I would say again, is that ChatGPT can fully automate the phishing email generation. And it could be basically with no human intervention to generate these, let's say, automated, sophisticated, very well written phishing emails. And that means phishing email can be generated in a larger scale for a larger group of people. One of the problems with the phishing email generation is that from the cybercriminal side, I'm saying, is that most of the cybercriminal are coming from countries whose language is different from English. So it means if they wanted to generate a phishing email, probably there are a grammar and mistake. And even if it's not, they would use simple word. It's not like professionally written. To address this issue, they have to use writing tools, which will take time and will slow down the process of phishing email generation. But with ChatGPT, everything would be easy. You can write a perfect phishing email, and you can write it for different group of people. You can analyze people's profile a lot easier, and you can create fake profile, and then you can write phishing email linked to those fake profile, which make it more basically more believable for people to believe that, yeah, that it's correct. So then if they're saying me that there's a specific link, it will do the specific things, I can click on it and I can trust on it. So that's also helping cybercriminal and in generating the phishing email a lot faster than and in a more automated way compared to the era before ChatGPT. Privacy invasion is also another issues that should be addressed because generally speaking, not just about ChatGPT, generally speaking, tech advances is a lot faster than action that we take regarding the safeguarding the technology and transparency of the technology. If we continue to rely on AI and systems like ChatGPT for various tasks, it's essential to understand the privacy concern associated with it, because lots of people would use ChatGPT, lots of them unintentionally share private data, and most of the time those information would be stored and would be used to retrain the model, and that's an obvious invasion of the privacy. So we have to definitely think about it to see how we can define different rules and regulation around it. And I know already some countries, Italy, if I'm not wrong, they started to basically ban usage of the ChatGPT in different organizations because of privacy invasion and things like that. And that shows that it's a serious, basically, concern. I talked about some of the way that ChatGPT can be basically can jeopardize the security and safety, but now I'm going to give you some advice on how to avoid security issue with ChatGPT. Maybe the first things that you can do is that to avoid security issue, the security issue is to keep your personal information private, and that means avoid sharing sensitive information as much as possible. Avoid sharing your passport, credit card information, and things like this. The other thing is that, if possible, always try to identify the source of information before trusting the information that ChatGPT provides to you, because you might take some action based on those information and it might not be basically correct. And be careful about the type of information that you're sharing, because that might be used against you. You might engage with a bot in a conversation and you might share some personal opinion, but again, because it might be stored and the data breach and privacy invasion might happen, those information might be used against you. So be careful about that. And it's always the best action, I would say, always is to censor, don't store your sensitive data in the ChatGPT, and make sure that you will clean the history when you're using the bot. And generally, it's always better to go with the zero trust approach, that you don't want to trust anything and you want to have a backup mechanism or authentication mechanism to verify the source of the information that's coming to you or the source of the request that's coming to you. If you take these actions, most probably you can basically ensure that your safety and security would be maintained to a high level. I'm not done. Usually when people provide advice, it's at the end of the presentation, but I still have a couple of more slides. I talked about somehow disadvantages of the ChatGPT for the cybersecurity and how it can help cybercriminal. But let's say in a couple of slides how ChatGPT can help security professional, because there is also a good side for the bot in terms of the cybersecurity. One of the ways that ChatGPT can help security professional is in vulnerability assessment. Remember, I told you that vulnerability, the fact that ChatGPT can facilitate vulnerability assessment is a tool that helps cybercriminal. They can find vulnerability faster and they can launch malware using those vulnerability faster. But on the other hand, security specialists also can use the technology to assess vulnerability of the system in a more efficient and faster way. And then they can patch those vulnerability hopefully faster than cybercriminal get access to them. Also, it can identify vulnerability by interacting with NLP system and providing the inputs that are basically that can help figure out what's the vulnerability in the natural language model itself, and which could be basically exploited by the cybercriminal. It can be also used to basically analyze the phishing email in a more efficient way through organizations, so they can somehow spam or they can alert toward phishing email in the organization. This is also a vulnerability. And there are many different ways that it can be used for vulnerability assessment. I just listed a couple of them here. The other way that it can help cyber security professional is through threat intelligence, by providing the ability to process a large amount of data and analyze them in a proper way and in real time. Threat intelligence is information collected, analyzed, and used to identify and understand potential cyber threat that could basically jeopardize the security of an organization. This information can come from a variety of sources like news articles, social media, data from security tools, different way. But all of them, when you collect all this information and analyze them, the whole process is called threat intelligence analysis. And because ChatGPT is using NLP to analyze unstructured data, it can be useful in analyzing news articles, blogs, and social media and extract relevant information, which can be used to enhance the security posture in the organization. Let's say an organization, a large organization, is concerned about the potential of cyber attack from a particular country. ChatGPT can be used by security teams to monitor news articles, social media, and posts from potential cyber threat from that particular country. And then by processing those information, extracting the relevant information, and highlighting the potential threat, the organization can basically think ahead of the time and take action ahead of the time to be safe toward the cyber attack. Incident response is also another way that ChatGPT can use. Generally, we can use it to identify potential security threats. We can use it to analyze huge, basically network traffic, logs in the system, and other relevant data. But once the incident has been identified, we can also use ChatGPT to prioritize incidents based on the level of the basically importance and different criteria, which is specific for each organization. And then it can be used to provide guidance on developing and implementing incident response plan. It can also help security specialists and professionals to basically engage in conversation and get some recommendation to develop recommendation system. It can also be used to report the incidents and document the incidents after that in a basically useful way, to maybe summarize it, to maybe writing it in a way that would be easier to understand by different people and things like that. Yeah, and the other things that I have here in my list is that ChatGPT can offer a powerful solution for creating interactive security awareness training program. It can somehow provide customized and personalized programs for employees in different organizations to raise awareness toward the security issue and the way they can basically protect themselves. It can leverage machine learning and NLP and make this basically training more engaging for different people in different organizations. The other, generally, because when we use ChatGPT for different purposes, including the security awareness training, we can develop different type of scenarios and help people to understand the security breaches or different security concepts in a more efficient way by developing different scenarios. That's also another way that it can help. Yeah, and finally, I talked about different basically issues or different advantages of the ChatGPT, which is obviously an example, a good example of AI technology. But now I wanted to just summarize what I said, and before everything, I wanted to make sure that I wanted to say that AI is controversial, and already lots of people raised concern about using AI. ChatGPT is also an example. It has the potential to continue improving and evolving in the future, because more data would be available. Definitely more people would criticize the technology, and people in OpenAI are trying to fix all the bugs and things like that. But definitely it's impossible to create a ChatGPT model that can't be abused. There is always a scenario that can happen, and cyber criminals find a way to manipulate the system. And with such a powerful tools available, actually, we have to acknowledge that bad guys or threat actors got a significant upgrade, and chasing them would be a lot more difficult. And that's why we always have to be careful when we use AIs, that we won't end up having a technology that is against us. We always have to be careful about taking care of biasness, ethical concerns, privacy concerns, and things like this in the AI technology. It's clear that if we continue to integrate AI systems like ChatGPT in our daily lives, we must address these complex issues, and we have to ensure that technology is safe for us. And we need to find a way actually to build appropriate safeguard about it. And this is not something that one single person or one single company can do. Going forward, I believe that government regulator and cybersecurity expert will probably have to work together to address these emerging threats related to ChatGPT, or generally speaking AI. But how we can regulate AI and protect ordinary people without without stopping the innovation and restricting the digitalization, that's actually a question which is very hard to answer, and it might take many years to find a proper answer and develop the technology in a proper way. But until then, I think the answer is that we have to do what we can do to protect ourselves. That was all for today. Thank you very much for your attention, and I would be happy to answer any question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karimipour, for excellent presentation, and thank you for sharing your knowledge. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay. I see Leslie has raised hand. Leslie, please go ahead and either you can post your question in the chat, or you can ask here.
Hi, Doctor. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I'm really glad, because in the last week, I have been attending various conferences and presentations on ChatGPT. And honestly, this is the first time where I have found a sense of balance and a sense of sharing the advantage and the disadvantage, the threats, but also the opportunities of ChatGPT. So thank you so much for that balanced and accurate point of view. Thank you. I'm curious to know if you see similar cybersecurity threats from other generative AI, like for instance, Midjourney.
Can I say that again? I lost your voice.
Oh, so sorry. I was saying I'm curious for your perspective, if you see similar threats on other generative AI, like for instance, Midjourney.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Generally speaking, I cannot say that all security concerns that we see in ChatGPT would happen for other basically AI tools, but majority of them are trying to use AI technology to build different, let's say, picture, different profile for the people, different type of video that representing people's style, and because of that, all of them can be misused to for deep fake campaign, the same way that ChatGPT can be used, and they can facilitate the way that we can develop basically a different profile, let's say a fake profile for people. And as I said, social engineering and using disinformation is one of the ways that cyber criminal will use to basically get access to their target and their target organization. And the same as GPT, there are many other AI tools that can facilitate it. And the point is that when we use AI to generate pictures and fake profile, it's not reversible. You cannot find the source of those images because they are fake, but they are good enough that people can trust on them. And that makes the problem more difficult for security specialists and professionals to figure out if it's coming from a suspicious source or not. So definitely, yes, there are common security issues that happens for other AI tools, similar AI tools.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Karimipour. I'll hand it over to Parisa now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nia, and thank you, Dr. Karimipour. It was an amazing talk. And now we would like to go into the second presentation and blame ChatGPT if I pronounce her name wrong, because I asked ChatGPT. Our second speaker, Suryatapa R, is an AI architect and data scientist at 𝙤𝙬𝙬-𝙬𝙬. And the topic that she's going to talk about is AI toolbox, the new age of algorithmic thinking. Suryatapa designs and builds state-of-the-art NLP models for financial applications. And she also builds human-centered AI ops systems to manage these financial models in secure production environments. Suryatapa envisions a world where AI would one day enable humans to overcome their biological limitations. That's the dream. Please welcome Suryatapa. And sorry if I pronounce your name wrong.
No, that's very accurate. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. So should I just share my screen?
Sure, yeah, please.
Okay, so after Dr. Karimipour talked about some of the risks of these emergent technologies, I would like to talk about how to build these emergent technologies. And then hopefully for some of the beginners or new in the field, some of the members in the audience, it helps them provide some interesting resource materials to get started with or reading up. And then if there are more advanced people in the audience, then it gives them a slightly different perspective on the recent advancements. So I'll give a brief about the background in AI and the current state of the art. And then the perspective that I'm trying to talk about is a very computer science, AI as a algorithms versus heuristics approach of solving problems. We'll see how some of the AI modeling techniques are evolving, as well as how the heuristics around it are evolving to solve some of the problems. So this is a very brief history of AI. For a very long time, we developed the math. We developed even very conceptual ideas in terms of sci-fi movies and books of how intelligence, robots, chatbots, all of these kinds of systems would work and interact with humans. But till a certain point in time where we had control over data and had sort of the technology for processing data significantly fast enough for these kinds of technology to be starting to be built in reality. So I think we are in a very early phase of actual practical applications of AI still, and we have a long way to go. So these sort of neural network architectures, maybe everyone is familiar with at this point, and these kinds of architectures are function approximators of very mathematical or algorithmic functions. How the field is evolving is from this function approximation. We are trying to emulate cognitive behavior and human behavior through building different systems around these approximators. So taking inputs from the environment like humans or recorded behaviors of humans and then evolving a system's performance based on that cognitive insight has been a very recent trend that has achieved a lot of success. This is sort of the trajectory of the different sort of AI models that's out there, really powered by parallel computing, GPU technologies, all the chip technology that has come up. And for every sort of machine learning model or architecture, there is a complementary algorithmic practice or field that goes with it. So with graph theory and distributed computing, large-scale graphs, graph learning, all of these things have evolved simultaneously with different sort of abilities of training machine learning models. This is sort of a distribution, I would say, of the impact techniques of simulation or feedback has on this sort of a field. And they also have been in the research area evolving in lockstep. And now we are seeing a trend where all of these things are starting to come together. And these distributions show some of the industrial applications and the distribution of these applications in the current industry or state of the art. So things that really cover all sort of different machine learning applications and concepts. There is a very few number of applications still that capitalizes on all of the things that is available. And I would still say that most of the industrial systems are expert systems, being expert in particular problems that they are solving. Some of the recent discussions around AI and intelligence has been around building general intelligence. This is a great talk by Joshua Bengio on System 1 and System 2 comparisons of how the human cognition or brain works in different sort of automating tasks for the humans. So when do we pay attention to a task? When do we actively learn something versus when we just apply what we know? When do we reflect on our actions? They are governed by different parts of the brain and they are different sort of processes in themselves. And I think this sort of a perspective has really been key to some of these ChatGPT sort of applications that we are recently now seeing. So my perspective or take on this sort of an evolution is a more computer science one, or algorithms versus heuristics. So a definition of heuristics is a way of solving problems where an exact solution is not either feasible or it takes too long, doesn't have a real solution, but we still want to solve that problem to a reasonable degree of accuracy. And in those cases, we start using heuristics. And a key definition or differentiation of a heuristic with an algorithm is that where algorithms are a finite set of steps and actions that is defined is back traceable, is always correctable. Heuristics, on the other hand, is guided by intuition and a lot of exploration of a problem and how humans normally solve for it, and a lot of creativity around solving a problem. In research or in the evolution of computer science engineering, we see this kind of a trend from an approximation of, let's say, Fourier transforms and how a computer would perform that sort of a transform, to the evolution of neural networks and how it would perform transforms data, given you have enough data. There are a lot of analogs in the systems. It's just the behavior or the expected outcome of those systems vary in their degree of controllability and explainability. So some of the challenges and practices that's more prevalent today versus some of the things that are coming. Transformers, large language models, GPT is an architecture that follows this. It was originally introduced by researchers at Google, and it really evolves from some of the MapReduce and computational parallelism, those kinds of ideas, and bringing that into the neural network sort of a field. So it's always been part of this evolution. Now, even with the greatest language models trained on huge amounts of data with a lot of computational resources, we are still experiencing problems like lack of generalization, where very nuanced questions, most available chatbots still do not understand them. And if these questions are specific to a particular data or particular intent or context of a question of what person needs to be done versus just extraction of information, then most models that are deployed in the industry right now still are failing. So GPT is good at search, it is good at extracting information in different contexts, but if you have a unique context like an order placement and a situation that might have arisen in your particular thing that needs an action to be performed, those sort of systems are still special systems and requires engineering to be built around that and not so much as an AI system. The other problem is weak decision boundaries. A lot of these sort of problems of mislabeling and how sensitive things are to labeling issues is still a very big problem. To solve some of these problems, data augmentation is a technique that we use, and we add a lot of adversarial training data where we train a system to learn to differentiate between the right data and the right labeling for that data versus a wrong data or a data that is wrong but looks like the right data. And then teaching it how to classify and make those decision boundaries separable between those kinds of two inaccurate versus adversarial data types. Bringing that into some of the state-of-the-art techniques around how people solve these two problems, around large language models is a lot of research around explainable AI, where research have been trying to understand the black box that a neural network is and why and how it makes decisions, where it pays attention, and these kinds of approaches. This is a very interesting visualization of how sort of attention patterns or the neural network weights shift given different sort of inputs, and how it forms connections between inputs and outputs. And this has been going on for the last 2 to 3 years, trying to understand language models and try to gather insights from this kind of explanation so that we can generate feedback or learn how to improve a neural network more automatically as we go. And then there is also the problem of just running models on limited resources and making things more accurate and optimized. And a lot of these model distillation and pruning techniques are used for that sort of approach. Controllable AI is a natural evolution of these kinds of problems where people are now trying to control both the data quality and the system behavior by measuring some of these explainability results and generating some feedback either through using other models or humans in the loop. And techniques of reinforcement learning and imitation learning are becoming more prevalent. So all of these sort of comes into the picture around meta learning, where these really large language models like GPT-4 have now started to come into the industry because meta learning has become more of a established thing in research. So given that a model has been trained on a lot of data and has understood the decision boundaries between different data distributions and what separates them from each other, at that point you can start utilizing that sort of large language model for end applications, and with less amount of data to retrain it with or to give slight feedbacks like prompts, you can still guide the system to do a particular task. And this problem of imitating a learned system or finding the closest cluster to which you belong for your particular task, given a lot of clusters that a big enough large language model or any model has learned to separate with its decision boundaries. And you can start utilizing these two things together. And there's lots of research, different sort of architectures that have evolved around these concepts. And I'll be happy to share these slides for these resources. There are main two approaches where you either generate an expert policy. So a policy is a set of rules or a set of as an algorithm that mimics the human behavior or the realistic behavior. And this policy can be generated by a model or a set of rules. And then you have more sort of human in the loop expert systems or systems that mimic through simulated actions of users. Now, with the advent of these sort of techniques in research, things like ChatGPT are now coming into the industry as these sort of architectures, and the ecosystem has suddenly exploded with lots of technologies that follows this sort of a principle. That you have these large language models or an ensemble of expert models, and then you have some source of truth, can be a human feedback, can be actions that actually happen in the real world, and gathering that feedback and improving that model constantly. So these are some of the examples that I have personally found useful and interesting. This is a company that does mathematical as well as factual data extraction and building a knowledge graph or a lookup sort of a application around a lot of these things. Now, given that you ask a generic question that requires a factual answer, but maybe that fact is not strongly represented in that training data of that large language model for it to know a very accurate answer. So an example is the distance between Chicago and Tokyo. ChatGPT knows it's somewhere between 7,600 miles, but the accurate answer is 6313, which Wolfram has learned or built in its system. And now people have combined the two systems to generate automatic feedbacks for ChatGPT when it is wrong. And this is not just limited to ChatGPT. You can replace GPT-4 with other sort of models that you may design and build and train yourself. And a lot of this source code is available for people to retry other sort of approaches as well. Minerva is research from Google. This tries to solve mathematical equations and problems given natural language explanations or problem statements around these. Works fairly reasonable and has lots of applications in a real world, especially financial applications. This is another app that's available, that's Marvin. It brings a concept of AI function generator, and people who are aware of co-pilots with GitHub, they help you write functions, but this sort of a system is more expert on linguistic types of algorithms. So anyone who has any background in natural language processing would know that traditionally we had to use like a lot of algorithms as well as combination and ensemble of lots of models to do things like entity recognition or labeling of data and things like that. But now we can leverage models like GPT do this sort of operations, but define it in just terms of functions and what do you want that function to do and what inputs it takes. And this is open source GitHub repo. Anyone can even start extending the functionalities that it provides. A very similar concept is a Microsoft semantic kernel, where this semantic kernel more focuses on natural language tasks like summarization and question generation and those kinds of things, and not so much fact extraction, but again can be reused and repurposed. This is something you can find on Hugging Face's website. If someone's not aware, Hugging Face is a really great company that has done a lot of great work for the transformer and this sort of language model evolution. And they are constantly updating their website with all these different capabilities and tools that people are coming up with. So this GPT plus Wolfram plus Whisper is a sort of a plugin there. You have to provide your OpenAI key, and then you can start asking questions, and it will combine workflows to generate pseudocodes or to generate an explanation of what an algorithm should do for you. Now, some of these formal representations, and if someone's not aware, formal representation is defining a task or a thinking process in more sort of a finite number of steps, almost like a programming language that can be parsed and translated and has unique meaning in all sort of contexts. So to go from a very natural language to code generation or action generation and those kinds of applications that we really want to build, you really need sort of a transition layer where many different language forms means a finite set of steps or a defined representation in a mathematical space. So something like pseudolang provides that sort of a bridge between natural language and a formal representation or a grammar. And things like LMQL, they provide a way of constraining the output of a language model with some restrictions around what it can and cannot generate and how much to generate. One slide that is not here, but it's a recent release in the last couple of days, I think, is from NVIDIA, and they released an architecture for controlling hallucinations in language models, which is a similar idea to this sort of a constraint generation, but it's much more powerful. And this is an example paper in the research that I personally found really interesting. It's a model that self-criticizes and improves by an exploration sort of a technique. And this is just a sample paper, but lots of research going on in this field for these sort of new and creative approaches of utilizing these models. And the advanced heuristics is quantum machine learning. quantum machine learning has been evolving as a thing on its own because of the quantum limitations and all of the technology boundaries around the quantum realm. But having said that, as these things are evolving, people are finding machine learning problems to solve with that technology. And once we get to a state with QML where it is generating things fast enough and learning things well enough, some of these technologies that people are now developing around GPT of constraining its output or regulating what it generates, I feel those can really find applications in QML as in the future for constraining those kinds of outputs. And just a bit of background in QML, it's because the probability of quantum particles is how we generate these computational graphs in the QML space. The problem in itself is being solved by a heuristic approach to the problem solving. And so solving neural networks or AI sort of problems, which are the problem statements themselves are heuristic, combines the two and expands the probability spread around the solutions. So you can have very good models and terrible models from the same sort of an architecture with slight changes. And so being able to control those kinds of systems with these external information cycles will be very important once this field really starts to take off. So key takeaways from my presentation is problem solving is a constantly evolutionary process. Computer science and AI are not so separate. They're sort of have always been in lockstep, and different sort of computational approaches are very much needed in AI, as well as now what we're seeing is the AI approach is impacting the computational world, and everyone, both the data scientists or computer scientists, need to start share more information and evolve to stay relevant and to solve some of the problems. And definitely constant risk mitigation around security, ethics, these things are very important conversations to have for sure. That's my presentation, if anyone has any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Suryatapa. Very interesting talk and very interesting topic. Is there any questions from the audience? I actually have one myself. So based on, there are too many things happening at once in AI and machine learning. There are too many new tools, ChatGPT, all other new tools. And it's sometimes hard for data scientists and also like students to keep themselves up to date and make sure they use the latest technology, latest approaches, and so on. So I would like to know, like, what is your advice for that group of people that can't really track everything up?
Yeah, that is something even I struggle with constantly. And the struggle is you want to be an expert on something and have your own innovation or have some sort of an idea that you bring to research or to the field. I think any computer scientist or AI researcher wants that deep down. But because the field is evolving so fast that you have an idea, you start working on it, but even before you could publish something, someone else publishes it or it becomes a thing, and it's a constantly evolving process of your problem statements. There are two sort of approaches that I feel help me stay motivated at least, and there is no real global solution to the problem. One approach is like right now it's very good actually, this AI field being open source and a lot of researchers and a lot of bloggers, more sort of educational researchers they have become really part of the conversation. There are lots of YouTube channels, podcasts, magazines. You don't have to follow everything. It doesn't need to become the next Instagram, but having a good dedicated time every week to sort of follow some good people who talk about good things is a good practice to have, and documenting things that you are learning and not just seeing a video and forgetting about it, or bookmarking something and never getting back to it. It's the practice of having at least half an hour a day, or 5 minutes a day, or whatever your schedule is, to whatever you look at, to start making notes and ideas and keeping journals around that. That has really helped me, as well as constantly focusing on problems to solve, right? Not just I have a model architecture idea that I want to publish, but this is the end application of a research, and this problem needs to be solved in the best way possible to serve this human or this group of users in the best way possible, right? If you are motivated by that, then even if someone else publishes your architecture, you will immediately find a way to improve that architecture to solve that problem better, right? So I think being motivated to solve problems, and problems are infinite and they're never going to go away, I think that will really help students and researchers stay motivated.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Sorry, audience, we have to skip other questions. Suryatapa, if you have the time, there are some questions in the chat that if you could answer, but please feel free to reach out to her directly through LinkedIn and ask your questions. Now we have to go to our third part of the today's event. I'm going to introduce Yukun as our third speaker. She's going to talk about responsible uses of emerging generative AI. And Yukun is the Director of AI Governance and Responsible AI at ATB Financial in Calgary. She has over 10 years of experience in data science, statistics, AI, and she is our city lead in Calgary for Women in AI. Over to you, Yukun.
Hi again, everyone. Thanks for staying until my last presentation. Although I feel all my points have been mentioned in the first two presentations, so I'll keep it quick. And I really echo what Parisa you just asked Suryatapa about how do we get ourselves up to date. And I've been working on responsible AI since 2017. This is the first time I feel so nervous talking about this topic, because I feel I don't know what I don't know. Things are, because I work in this area, I feel like I naturally get updated on everything that's happening. But recently, since ChatGPT comes out and other generative AI, I feel like I have to really be intentional to get those information. So, and you see recently, it's really in the media, it's exploding with headlines about generative AI, like ChatGPT, Google's Bard, and like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney, everything. And today I feel like, what if I don't know what I don't know, and how do I present? So the answer is I asked ChatGPT well, now I want to give a talk on responsible usage of generative AI. What do I do? And surprisingly, it gives me a way better structure than I've initially planned to do. But then I was thinking, oh, I'm going to be replaced by ChatGPT because it's doing a better job than I do. But how do I show that I'm a human being? I shouldn't rely on a bot. So I was thinking, what can I do? Now, and then I got the answer is I have the audiences to help me. So I set up a poll. I want to know, let me see if I can do that. I want to know if you use, I'm going to launch it right now. Can you see can anyone see the poll? Good. Do you use them? Oh, the first response is I don't use them. So I wonder if you all can see the results real time as well, or just myself. Okay, great. So you see that those are the results. And many of us, 75% of us are using it, even though we may use it in different frequencies. I'm going to end the poll now and come back. I don't know if I can share the result. Okay. Just 1 second. Can you still see my screen? Or you can see me struggling?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
we can see. And my laptop is also struggling because it's running really, really fast. Okay, sorry about that. So I was thinking, I did a poll, and what do I do if my audiences don't use generative AI or they're all experts? So I asked ChatGPT again. This time it didn't give me a good answer. So you see how I use ChatGPT all the time. And if I don't have ideas, if I don't feel confident, then I always use it. And also from Dr. Karimipour's presentation, you see how good it is in using those generative AIs. And Parisa, do you have a question? Your screen is still loading.
Okay, that's because my laptop is slow. That's okay. Oh, I see, it's paused, that's why. Sorry about that. So I will continue as my laptop responds. That shows how technology can be not reliable sometimes and why we need to use ourselves to solve a lot of problems when the technology is not responding. So in addition to all the headlines you read about how good the generative AI is, you also see those challenges, and I still can't share my screen. You also see those challenges. For example, I'll just talk then. For example, there will be unethical usage. Dr. Karimipour just give a great example of how can people generate fake news, deep fake, or even automatically send fraud emails to a large audience. And also there's trustfulness and accuracy issues. Sometimes, like Suryatapa just showed, if you ask a distance from one city to another, it can give you, it sounds like the right answer, but it's actually hallucination that you feel it's right, but it's not. So it's important to cross referencing out those answers that you get from ChatGPT and other generative AI. There's also copyright issue. Just this morning, I use Stable Diffusion, also use DALL-E to generate some artwork, and that looks very good. And who owns the copyright of it? And biases is one of the biggest concern that people talk about all the time. Is for example, if I'll do the share screen again and then keep talking at the same time. If I use Stable Diffusion to generate a landmark that's in North America, it will be very easy for it to generate a similar one. But if I wanted to generate a landmark from Asia, for example, from China, I find even the language is not Chinese. So you see those biases is possibly because, Chelsea, are you trying to tell me something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, if you want to even send me the deck, if it's an issue with yours loading, I can share it from my side.
That's a good idea. And I will still talk at the same time.
You're a true Renaissance woman. You can do it all.
So biases is one of the biggest concerns, as the data is usually trained on data from North America. Sorry for the multitasking. Yeah, thanks for the encouragement, Ben. I've never seen this before. I mean, this technical issues. Okay, Chelsea, I've just sent it to you. So there are definitely concerns around generative AI. Are they good or bad? I remember there were questions in the audiences. Are you still optimistic about it, or you don't want to use it anymore because of those concerns? For me, I think it's been helping me a lot. Like I just showed you how I use ChatGPT, and I use it every day. But why there are still many concerns that we see? And sorry, Chelsea, are you able to share my screen?
Yeah, sorry, I was actually having dual screen difficulty, so I'm getting there. I am 0.2 seconds away.
That's okay.
We're
I am
pivoting.
careful for the audiences. Okay, stop sharing, and then I can launch the second poll. So I just mentioned about all the concerns of generative AI. I wonder, in this case, what's your feeling about generative AI? Are you still okay to use them, or what are the concerns you have? Thank you. That's so, as you can see, we show how mighty is generative AI. However, still about 86% of our audiences are still have concerns over generative AI. And I hope if that's a representative sample we see in the society, that's how much people worry about it. So what happened? Why it got into this phase that there's so many good things about it, but then it still make people worry about it. And a lot of people think generative AI is, or even AI itself is creepy because it's monitoring me, it's listening to me, to my conversation, and then I don't want to use it anymore. So how did we get there? What's the reason behind it? Is because there has been a disconnect between the development of the technology and the social contact of the technology use. So if you think about yourself, put your data science hat on, when you are building a model, you would think, oh, where do I get the big, large amount of data I want? And how do I make sure I'm using the right model? How do I clean my data? How do I train my model so the performance is very well? However, the major problem is you're only thinking from the technology perspective. However, you haven't thought too much about where will it be placed in the context of users, interaction, and institutions in our society. And Chelsea, you're still showing your screen. And then I'll just keep talking. So what I want to call out is the socio-technology technical system that we need to consider when we build models. We are not only considering what is the value we're generating for our company, what are the accuracy of the model. Maybe one step further is how do we balance the transparency, explainability, and the accuracy of the model. But also think about who is going to use your technology. What will be the potential impact on them? What will be the accountability and liability that comes from the AI tool? And what will be the public perception on those tools? Because so many factors that are completely intertwined with societal actors, institutions, values, and uses are intrinsic into the data, the model, its performance, and ultimately its development in the real world. So that's where we have the problem, is we didn't think about what will be the impact. We only focus on the performance of our model. And to be able to focus on the impact is a lot of work, I'm sure. But this is also not new. This is not only specific to generative AI. It's prevalent to all the AI tools that we develop. So what can happen if we don't see the socio-technical system is there can be different traps that can arise if we fail to consider how social contact is interlaced with technology in different ways. For example, there can be the portability trap, like I just mentioned the example, if I use stable diffusion to generate a landmark in North America, but it doesn't work as well in Asia. So if it's applied into a different context, it may not be accurate anymore, or sometimes it can even be misleading or do harm. So really think about where your application is going to be used. And if your data that you have is representative of those specific context. And there can be ripple effect trap, where when we fail to understand what will be the insertion of the technology into our existing social system, change the behavior and embedded value of our existing system. For example, I use DALL-E to generate some artwork that's so good, it's better than I could ever make. What if companies decide that they prefer this efficiency and low cost of AI generated content over the work done by artists, photographers, and designers? We don't know. We don't have an understanding of how this will affect the creative industry over the coming years, or have safeguards in place to protect those artists. So this is the ripple effect trap that we may fall into. And the last trap that we may fall into is the solutionism trap, is when we fail to recognize that rely on technology to solve problems may do more harm than good. Like in the first of my presentation, I tried to use ChatGPT to help me, guide me, what do I present to the team? But over time, I lose my creativity. I lose my own point on things. So that may potentially do more harm than good. So what can we do? What will be the recommendations for future with responsible AI? And also I want to mention that because my topic is about responsible use of generative AI, it's not only from the customer's user's perspective, but also when, like Suryatapa just present those toolbox. When you use the toolbox that you use generative AI to develop more products, what can we do? So something for the interest of time to mention is we want to get independent auditing and monitoring before this solution is great. You got it. So
I didn't realize it was on the other one. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So those tools should be audited by a accredited third party before deployment. Chelsea, you can just get everything show up in this page as I talk through them. It's actually very common to, thank you, Mary. It's very common for the banking industry because we're heavily regulated. We do have third-party auditing before our deployment. We also have active monitoring, and we do impact assessments. But I want to call it out for other industries as well. And also standards and regulations. I'm involved in several development of the regulations in Canada, but also I see how slow it is, but how important it is. And you may think, oh, what's the point of us knowing this because we're not part of the government creating those regulations? The reason I want to call it out is, it takes a long time to get a regulation passed. So when it comes to us in the society, we embrace them because we know it is important. It should have been there a long time ago. And we can think about ahead of time is what can we do before the regulation comes to help. For example, we ask if we can get independent auditing, if we can do impact assessment when we develop the models. And the last one is, as I said, many companies and even the society focus more on the return on investment, on profit. if we can increase more funding for safety and ethical research and emphasize on robustness and transparency, explainability, we can, even from data science perspective, we have more time to do the impact assessment rather than put 99% of the time on development. So those are some of the callouts that we can do as a whole, as together. No one can do it on their own. It's the whole society that we can do it in the future to help it. And Chelsea, next page, please. So again, what I want to call out for as AI developers, what we consider is impact. What you are developing, what will be the impact to your customers. To map out those potential impacts, have measures to for those risks, and also have mitigations for those risks. Sometimes it's just about, for example, transparency for our users. What are you developing? And let them know that this is AI generated content to get the trust from audiences. I think we're all good users. We understand that AI has limitations, and our data scientists behind the AI tool has the best intention, but we do need a bit more transparency so we are aware of them and we improve this as together work on this. And next page, please, Chelsea. So as a user, put your critical thinking glass on, especially, for example, I use ChatGPT to guide me on how do I present today. I find that makes me feel like I'm less human if I do follow the ChatGPT recommendation. And Chelsea, you can still click on those. Yeah, and it's also not always accurate. So what we can do is do remember to cross-reference. It does give you the hallucination that it's always correct, but sometimes it's not. And also, not everyone who has access to AI tools have good intentions. You see how I use it. I don't see any cybersecurity risk on the way I use it. But Dr. Karimipour just showed us what harm can AI do. So just be careful. And also, we see that many of us in the audiences, we use ChatGPT and stuff. But people outside of our bubble, they don't know about, many of them, they don't know about ChatGPT. And they won't be able to do the critical thinking because they don't know about it. So we, in the society, we have the role to feel a bit more responsible every day by sharing your experience with your friends outside of your working bubble, to tell them what is AI about, why it's creepy, why it's helpful. This way we can get more people trust on it. And the last one is Suryatapa just showed us, you can help ChatGPT to evolve. So when you use it, think about, put your responsible AI hat on to make sure you're using it responsibly and also providing the accurate information back to the AI to help shape a better future of it. So that's about my talk. It sounds like a good summary of the 2 talks ahead of me, but really it's easy. It's hard and easy to be responsible and develop responsible products. Just to keep those mindset and welcome, embrace those changes, especially the regulative changes that you feel, oh, it's too much work. But you also know that it's important. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Yukun. It was a very interesting topic. I have a lot of questions, but let's first hear about if anyone from the audience have any questions. Oh yeah, we have Ben as the first one, I think. Please go ahead, Ben. Okay, Ben, do you want to ask your question?
Okay, perfect. You unmuted me. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Yukun, for the presentation. So my question is, my friend and I always debate about this, right? How big tech like Facebook, Google, Amazon have too much power over user data, and they need to be regulated. However, I kind of think of it as Oppenheimer, the guy who was involved in the nuclear project. And I guess my take is that I'm at the stance of where, yeah, you can stop the progress of your own nation, but there are rogue countries that that take advantage, I guess, of they want to progress for the sake of progress, right? Like think of no offense if you're of this nationality, but like North Korea, Russia, China. If say you don't progress, other countries will progress and they'll use it against you. So I just have I guess a bit of personal dilemma about this. Is yeah, you want to be responsible, but others people is not going to be responsible, and if they get ahead, they can use that to kind of harm your nation, harm your companies. So I guess how do we reconcile that? I guess what's your take on it?
That's a very good question, and there can be big pictures like political reasons. There can be small things like, for example, if we want to send recommendations or advertisements to potential customers, we are also taking their data and do this. So I myself even in this dilemma, and I was thinking, am I doing the right thing? Am I helping people doing the right thing? However, I feel we can't really stop other people from doing things that they want to do. What we can do is we rely on AI to regulate AI. So for example, if other countries or other companies want to attack you, there are always AI-enabled ways to attack back. I'm not saying attack back, it's just to stop the attack. So I'm optimistic that there will be, because now we talk about adversarial machine learning, that people would change small things and then try to fool your system. There are always ways to stop those. So I really hope that our AI and ML development will reach a time where when we are using it, we're also using it to protect ourselves. So there's not a clear answer on it for sure. But I do believe, regardless of the country, the nationality, 90% of people, I think, who are having good intention.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you for the answer.
Thanks, Yukun. Leslie, you can go next.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I have like a comment and 2 questions. Maybe it's too much. Marisa, just let me know if it's too much. It's okay? Okay, wonderful. Sorry, I cannot turn on my camera because I have 4 kids around, so it's, it's play day. So I, thinking of what Yukun was sharing, one of the things that I have been an advocate for is that part of putting that responsible AI hat on is to share a narrative of augmentation or not a narrative of substitution. So I'm going to explain myself. There are some studies already sharing information about how the industry shares a uses a marketing approach when they're going to publicize their products, the AI products. So I think that is important, because then those pieces of information go to the media, and then the hype is enormous. So I think that part of that responsibility is to portray, to share a narrative that AI is for augment our capabilities, as Yukun did it, and not for substitute our capabilities. I think that's essential, because one of the things that recent like studies and investigation have been showing is that the rhetoric that those language models are using make us feeling that those AI tools are sentient. And if we feel that they are sentient, we trust more, or we can feel fear. So the relationship is closer, and we don't see it more like a tool anymore. We can feel it like human. because we have the impression that it's sentient, that rhetoric of, oh, I'm sorry. Oh yes, so I think the presentation of Dr. Hadis, we saw that, oh, okay, sorry, oh, thank you. So that rhetoric make us feeling that we are in changing information, a conversation with another human. So I think part of the conversation is putting a narrative out there to educate our audiences on that idea that this is not for replace us, this is for augmenting our capabilities. That saying, I'm just want to ask two questions. First, thinking, Yukun, on what you shared about the socio-technical assemblages, the socio-technical settings where the tools are going to be deployed. I was wondering, this is an approach that is becoming very popular now. What do you think about a co-design approach? I mean, involving end users, and not only end users, but also external users in the design of the technology from the very early stages. Probably in the bank industry, that's more difficult because of the regulations, but just would like to know your views on it. And also, so this is a conversation that is around everywhere about the bill C-27, and how do you think could address some concerns about transparency on AI, and what could be their shortcomings? Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Leslie. We are a little bit over time, so like if you can summarize your answer, that would be great.
I'll be quick. I read a public paper from OpenAI saying that they are also not sure what will happen. So I agree. I like that they have the tool available to everyone to use, so we can even do like a real-time experiment of what will happen, even though there are many risks and concerns of this. But I still like people to adopt it from the beginning. That's to answer the first question. The second is Bill C-27 is a very good attempt to regulate AI and data related activities. It may not be as comprehensive as EU AI Act and others, but it's still good to give us, for example, all the high impact solutions need to publish plain language explanation in their website. So there are some good things for us to adopt, and I think it's an important step, even though it's not comprehensive enough, and there's still a big room for us to interpret what does it mean and what can we do. But I think eventually the regulation will evolve as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today and being patient. I know we went over time. We have a short survey that just popped up. We really want to hear from you to be able to learn what are the topics that you want to be covered in our future events. We want to make sure that we focus on a wide variety of topics and topics that you are interested. So please make sure to bear with us for another 2 minutes and fill out the survey so we learn more about you, and your input is very valuable. We want to basically learn how to serve you and our community better. Additionally, we also want to invite you to join our Women in AI community. Seppi is going to share the links, or she have already shared the links. You can join Women in AI Canada, or even better, you can become a volunteer and help us out to be able to basically hold better and more basically have a better team, and like more not better, I don't say we are not good, just like to have more diverse backgrounds and be able to serve better. Yeah, so links are in the chat. Make sure to fill out the membership form, or if you want to volunteer, fill out that application form. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your participation, awesome questions that you asked, and you were very engaged. Thank you, and hopefully we will see you in our future events. And thanks to all of our speakers. It was a wonderful event.
Just want to say also thank you to Parisa for the amazing moderation. Really well done, particularly with the few technical errors, but nothing that we can't roll off of our back. And definitely want to encourage, especially if you're part of another group within the Calgary AI data science ecosystem. We love the idea of partnering and lifting each other up. So would definitely love to have more conversations about that.
Chelsea. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.